So today I want to talk about quickly about the three physical states of matter. There's solid, liquid, and gas. There's sometimes people consider a fourth state. That's going to be plasma. So plasma is an ionized gas. We'll talk a little bit about ions later on this semester. So a couple of things. To go from a solid to a liquid, like if I go from ice, you melt it. That's called a melted. That's the transition. It's called melting. If I want to do the opposite, if I want to go from water to ice, we call it freezing. Now, a couple of things. The melting point, let's use MP for melting point, and freezing point of a substance occur at the same temperature. Like for instance now, I can melt ice at 0 degrees Celsius, and I can freeze water at the same temperature. The only difference is in one case you're adding heat, another case you're cooling it down or removing heat. So let's talk about that next. So to go from a solid to a liquid to a gas, if I go in this direction, it's going to have to absorb energy. So absorb energy. We call that endothermic. So if I put a piece of ice on a table, it starts to melt because it absorbs energy or heat from the room. If I do the opposite, if I go from a gas to a liquid to a solid, so in order to go from like water to ice, if I put some water in some ice cube trays and put it into the freezer, it loses heat or cools down essentially. So in this case, it loses energy. Call that exothermic. Exothermic means it gives off energy. Loses energy, gives off energy, it cools down. So something like a hot pack, that's going to be exothermic reaction. It gives off energy. That's why you feel it being hot. Cold pack absorbs energy and you feel it being cold. So endothermic is going to be cold. Exothermic is going to be hot. A couple of these other transitions, to go from a liquid to a gas, you can call that vaporization. Sometimes you can call it boiling. It's all the same. So you're going from a liquid to a gas state. To go from a gas to a liquid, again, you'll see this on your cars in the morning, it's condensation. And then finally, the last transition is solid to a gas. That's sublimation. So dry ice is a good example. Put a piece of dry ice, it goes directly from a solid to a gas. It skips the liquid part. One last thing, if I go from a solid to a liquid to a gas, remember, that's endothermic, so I may ask you that. To go from a gas, liquid to a solid, that's exothermic. So basically, if I go from left to right, endo, right to left, that's exothermic. And then so going from a solid to a gas, I'm going left to right, that's going to be an endothermic reaction.